Good morning. So I am Professor Aisha Iqbal Vishumohan from IIT Madras. I am your instructor for English language for technical communication. So let's start. I am sure that you are benefiting from the course so far. I have been looking at some of your responses and some of your comments on discussion groups. So we thought it's better that we meet and have this little chat for 45 minutes or so. So let's have your questions now. Um, I am given to understand that most of you are students of engineering or polytechnic at various Indian colleges and universities. So let me know what are your specific concerns and which areas you find particularly difficult or perhaps more problematic to handle, and then we can talk about that also. If it's not, if the topic is perhaps not included, then in the revised or in the next rerun of the course we can have a section on that particular problematic area also. If it's already there, then we can have some more details. It's 10 o'clock. Okay. I perhaps you are aware of that I am already having another course called English language for competitive exams. So what I would suggest is that if some of you want a higher level understanding of what we are doing right now, perhaps for vocabulary or reading or writing, then I encourage you to look at that course also. It's also an NPTEL um, course that is floated by IIT Madras. So it also covers the major area or major areas rather that may be of interest to you in the domain of speaking language, speaking, writing, listening, and reading, as well as plenty of grammar and vocabulary exercises. So English language for competitive exams. So it is designed particularly for people who appear for uh, banking exams perhaps, or even TOEFL and GRE. So some of you can look that up as well. What is the time now? Somebody is saying hi, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. Hi, good morning. I see Shankar and Sajid and Sanjay Kumar. They are saying good morning. So good morning to all of you. I'm waiting to take some questions. So, how are you doing, and what are the specific queries you have? Stand. Shankar is asking English section for TCS. What is TCS? I need some more details, Shankar, here. I'll get back to you. I would like to know what makes English language more effective. This is Rajesh asking. Rajesh, where are you from? Give me some more details about you and ask me what is it that you want to be more effective in the domain of English language. As you chat with me, please also tell me what are the specific queries and where are you from? What are you doing? Are you students or are you just enrolled because you want to know something more about the English language? So let's have some more specifics about you guys. Jammu and Kashmir, Udhampur. Okay, good. Rajesh, are you a student? And what are you looking for exactly? I mean, if you want to do a course like English language, then how would you use it? That's my question. Then I will tell you how can you make English language more effective. Okay, effective technical writing in English. Right. So we have a couple of components in this course, a couple of modules in writing. Now, it all depends on, yeah, your specific query is technical writing in English. We have sections on report writing, letter writing, writing and SOP also, keeping in mind those students who might want to apply abroad for higher education. So, and a letter of reference as well. So, referees sending letters of references for students. So, we have covered all these areas in the course. But if you want to ask me anything specific, yeah, good morning, Surekha and Shankar and Harsh. Good morning to all of you. So, Rajesh, I will get back to your question, how to make English more effective. Good morning, Ashutosh, and good morning, Valla. The United States of America. Well, Rajesh, give me a moment. Yeah, this is an area which interests me. Vaibhav asked me why the United States of America. Also, notice my pronunciation. It's the United, not the United. It's the. And I'll tell you in a moment why the. And why not the India. And he's from Jharkhand. Now, the answer to this because many people say the Tamil Nadu, the India, or what is that? Sometimes the Bihar. No, we don't say this. The United States of America, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. Why? Because these are supposedly collection of states. Okay, and India is a country, a unified country. These countries are a group of states. Okay, so that's the so United States and therefore the USA. And why the, where the and where the, there are some certain vowels, a, e, I, o, u. When words begin with a, e, I, o, u, generally the idea is to use the, and when it's the, so the chair, okay, but the umbrella. So consonants and vowels, they also influence the your pronunciation. Alok. I want to know how to be confident in speaking English. Very common problem, Alok. But don't let this demoralize or discourage you. You speak English. The only way you get better or more effective in speaking English is by actually practicing it. You are an engineer, so the only way you get or better or you improve in your engineering skills is by doing a lot of practical exercises in the laboratory. But if at home or if outside or if among your friends you are speaking only in an English, which any language which is not English, then how will you improve your English? So, in order to speak better English, please try to practice English. There are, if you don't have people in your immediate circles who would be very comfortable in speaking in English to you, I would suggest that you talk online. There are lots of courses and which are more interactive, more discursive that can help you in developing your spoken English. So perhaps you can register for some of these spoken English courses online as well. I'm very sure that in your city or in your town hall there are some face-to-face training also for spoken English. So why not try that as well? Uh, So Suvanandi asks, "Does the accent really matters, ma'am?" No, it doesn't really matter for most of us. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to reduce your accent unless and until you're in a particular setup where accent would matter a lot. So I suggest this is just a little bit of digression, but not exactly a digression. You watch a movie called My Fair Lady. It's a wonderful film starring the great actor Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn, where Rex Harrison is professor of linguistics and phonetics, um, Professor Higgins, and the girl Audrey Hepburn, she is an ordinary girl. She sells flowers on the streets of London, and she wants to improve her accent. And how does it matter? It matters because if you speak the English language with a better accent, then your chances in life and society, they improve. It could even be for job opportunities. Okay. I'm talking about a film. I just gave an example. I'm very sure that for most people, accent really doesn't matter in improving the so-called chances in life. Yeah, but the moment accent starts intruding your comprehension, for example, if X is speaking in a thick accent, uh, then maybe the people who are listening to that person, the interlocutors, the listeners, they may not be able to comprehend what that person is speaking because the accent gets in the way. Generally speaking, accent doesn't matter. I have seen very good people, brilliant people who are doing very well in life, and their English is extremely accented. It shouldn't matter and wouldn't matter perhaps in the near future, but you have to decide what kind of uh, perhaps domain you speak your language in, and there are certain kinds of areas and professions where the accent would matter. My English is very poor. How can I improve? All right, I'll give you this is a very common problem. Best way to improve and self learning would be to read the paper, and I recommend our national dailies, uh, particularly the Hindu paper. Okay, it has some very good editorials, but then also the Times of India. Um, and there are lots of other papers also, right? Hindustan Times, perhaps, yeah. So they that matters. I mean, you have to. There is a thing called immersion. Now, immersion means that you immerse yourself in a particular environment. You want to improve your English, you have to immerse yourself in English. Many of you may say, why learn English at all? Then it doesn't really matter. I'm very sure that all of you would do very well in life, even without mm, having excellent, the so called excellent 100% accuracy and excellent pronunciation. Without that, also, people do well in life. It doesn't matter. But if it does matter, then perhaps a good idea would be to read the dailies, the newspapers. Once you are done with the newspaper, then perhaps reading the magazines, Outlook magazine, Frontline magazine, also India Today. So this is the way I think most of us learn English. So even if you don't have people who work or who have an excellent knowledge of English, even if you don't have such people around you, I think the better idea would be to self learn, to self train. Why we use were in this sentence? If I were, because it's conditional. If I, the question here is from Akhilesh. Hello, Akhilesh. If I were an angel, I would be flying. Okay, so I don't say I were going. I said we say I was going. So Akhilesh's question is: if I were an angel, if I were the let's say the chief minister of the state, I would make sure that IIT Madras is given something more, some more privileges. I mean, just if I were, okay. But let's say the chances of becoming the chief minister are very rare or slim. So therefore, so it's a condition which will, and most of us know that it's not going to happen. If I were the Queen of England, okay, I hope you understand. It's not going to happen. So it becomes a wishful thinking, and in such cases, it's a condition which is a wish, and therefore it takes a work. Any online course for writing skills? So many. Uh, I really don't look up online courses for training English, but because I've never felt that the need for personally, I never felt, but I'm very sure I have heard of that there are excellent courses. Just off the course, I can think of. So I think Harvard University, it offers certain courses in online courses in writing. I'm not too sure, but many of these renowned universities across the world, they do offer certain kinds of online courses. They may not be terribly detailed, and but you look them up, and perhaps there could be a possibility of enrolling for a course like that. I'm very sure. You have to look up. You look up certain university websites and see if they do offer online writing courses. Ashish Dindal says, I agree. Hello, Ashish. Ideas of reading the newspaper. And he also says that why not watch English movies because you get used to the foreign accent and expressions. Quite true. But you see, English movies and what kind of movies, they are not extremely accessible. I deliberately didn't mention movies because most movies that people watch nowadays, they are not the kind of movies that will improve anybody's English. I'm talking in a very generalized terms. I'm not talking about people who take the or make the effort of watching really classy movies, but let's say films that have lots of violence and 3D animation and effects, then they are more about the visual spectacle. They are not about English. When I mentioned Ashish about My Fair Lady, now this is a movie that you can watch and you can learn the English accent and expressions, but you have to really pick and choose your films carefully. Abhishek, how to increase vocabulary? Abhishek, I just mentioned before the moment we started the course, that there is another NPTEL course that I have floated, and it is I think currently going on. It's called English Language for Competitive Purposes. Now, or competitive exams, I think. So, English Language for Competitive Exams. This is another course of mine, which is going on currently by the NPTEL. So it has plenty of exercises on improving your vocabulary. I recommend that you look it up because if vocabulary is what you want, I think that course sort of covers a huge area, vast area where vocabulary is concerned. Chetan, I won't be able to respond to that. These are very professional and commercial kind of things. So, sorry, specific examples I won't be able to. Specific exams are not something that we want to look at here for this chat. I won't have a bag, I want a water bottle. You just open my bag and there is a little water bottle somewhere. So one, what was your question? What is what is real mystery? What is real mystery behind fluent speaker reader? Suam Nandi, what is the real mystery? The question should be what is the real mystery behind fluent speaker and reader? So, what is the mystery? There is no mystery. Either you're born with it, or if you, I think I'll give you some give you a little exercise. Who do you think is a fluent speaker of English in current times? Let's think of someone famous who you often come across on TV or very visible person. Who is a fluent speaker? Well, okay, so if you want to become a fluent speaker, you have to practice speaking yourself. And if you don't get people in your circles to practice your English with, then please join some interactive online course that is completely devoted to speaking, to improving your spoken English. That takes care of your spoken English. Now, reading. How do we improve reading? Um, Reading can be best improved when people start young. See, most languages, but particularly if you are talking about second language, English is our second language or foreign language. It's not a mother tongue or our native language, right? Now, what happens is that the sooner you start, your mind starts developing a certain kind of a cognitive ability, and there is a skill called prediction. You should come to a level where even without reading the complete sentence, you are able to predict what the next idea or word would be like. So that should be the aim of most people, and you should be able. So one thing is that while reading, and this is a tip to improve. Chaitanya Patel, I'll respond to your listening in a minute, in a moment. Let me first finish with Subham Nandi. So, reading. While you're reading a complex text and you feel this is difficult and I'm not able to understand, um, perhaps you can put it aside for a while and you can read something about the text. Nowadays, there is no dearth, no lack of material online. You have to use technology to its best, to its, yeah, not technology for developing English we are talking. I'm not asking you to get hooked on gaming or Facebook or other social um, kind of media. But if you want to improve your English, then yeah, read something about the text, understand what is it all about, get a summary of it. That is one thing. Secondly, if you don't want to do that and you're in a hurry and you want to read that, then don't. Um, for example, you shouldn't look up the word meaning at every step. You just read, try to understand the meaning of the word through the context. Okay, so don't let anything or anyone hinder your reading, and try to read at least 1 hour a day. Even if your life is very busy and you're an engineer or you're a student of engineering and you have assignments and homeworks and laboratory work to do. So it shouldn't come in the way of improving your language. So what I would suggest is that at least give up something, give up a hobby. You want to improve your English, read for 1 hour. You become a fluent speaker. It will work if you speak consistently with people. Not, for example, speaking one sentence of English a day and you think that you will become fluent. You have to converse with people in the English language. You have to read the English language in order to be a fluent reader. So practice. What matters most, fluency or less grammatical errors? Hmm. I think one has to be, see, fluency is often affected by grammatical errors. I wouldn't separate the two. You are fluent. Fluent doesn't mean that you rattle off sentences after sentences like a rifle gun. It's that's not what fluency means. Some people speak slowly, and they think before they speak, and they are very clear and they are very articulate and they are fluent. So fluency doesn't mean that one has to be a very fast speaker. At the same time, don't make the mistake of speaking very slowly. Some people speak so slow that it gets on your nerves. So if you're talking about speaking in a group discussion or speaking in an interview setup, jobs interview setup, then perhaps the focus should be on presenting your material. So at the end of the day, you're engineers and you should be fluent to express your professional knowledge. So you should be able to talk without bothering too much about the grammatical accuracy. But personally, I think fluency and accuracy and grammatical accuracy, they go hand in hand. You can't sacrifice one for the other. Fluency just doesn't mean that someone who speaks very fast. That's all. That can also sometimes go against. There's a question. Um, I want to learn how to express in the fewest words. How can I do that? If you want to write, if writing is your ambition, uh, perhaps you should see there are plenty of books. There are lots of books which actually teach you how to write more effectively. Um, One idea is to look up these books, but I'm sure that you don't have time to read all the books in the world. You have enough reading to do and enough learning to do for your own domain, for your mechanical engineering, right? So you're not going to read books on how to improve your written English more effectively. I would suggest that you write and I'm sure there is an English teacher somewhere in your in the place where you live, or even in your college, and if they are accessible to you, perhaps try to show them, ask them to review your writing. So ask people who you think know um, more English or are better suited to give you feedback. I think you should contact them, show them examples and samples of your written English, and take their feedback and comments. How to write in fewer words. It will come, the more you write, you will understand that there are lots of expressions that can be avoided, right? But in your domain, I think you have to be more precise. In mechanical engineering, nobody expects you to write flowery, poetic language. So you're not writing a novel here. So, how to express yourself in minimum space? That is the question. So, one good idea would be to avoid words which are which you think are repeating what something or something that you have already done. So redundancy. Many a time people use redundant words in their language. So they repeat. They have already written that, and then they paraphrase the same thing, same idea, and present it another time in the next line. So avoid that. Yeah. So Narayan asks, can I remember the vocabulary for a long time? Hello, Narayan. Vocabulary, remembering complex vocabulary for a long time. I agree with you, Narayan. It's not an easy task. But again, this comes with practice. If you start reading certain kinds of texts where the same kind of vocabulary is repeated, so the brain functions in its own peculiar way. So you will store it somewhere. So first time you come across a difficult word, you may not be able to remember, but it appeals to you. You like it. You want to. So perhaps note it down somewhere. That's how people used to learn vocabulary or improve vocabulary in the pre-internet era. Now, if you want to learn a word, perhaps there could be some way in which you can save or store that word, or perhaps uh, mark it somewhere in your system, in your phone, or on a paper, and go back to it, look up the meaning and see. So it all here. Most of us have some repertoire of basic vocabulary. We won't forget that. The problem arises only if we need to use the right word at the right time, and we know there is a word somewhere, but we are not able to express. That's because, not because of memory power or retention, that's because we are not practicing enough. Um, Just is asked Omkar. First, let me come to ma'am. Please tell us the difference between scanning, skimming, critical reading, types of reading. Scanning, Omkar, is looking at a text carefully for a specific information. Skimming is almost glancing at it. I want to look at this, so I'm not going to look at each and every line but I'm looking specifically for Omkar. So my eyes will fall at Omkar's name, and then I will read. So this is, I skim through the text that are here on the screen. That is skimming. And critical reading is more complex. It has different kinds of reading: literary reading, scientific reading, and it requires more attention and more time and energy. Scanning, okay, skimming is just looking. Scanning is for more or better comprehension. Skimming when we want specific information and be done with it. Critical when we go in depth. Just actually during speaking time, I forgot. Just what is the question? Can you retype it? Thank you, Ashutosh. Just what is your question? Actually, during speaking time, I forget vocabulary. That's the question. Okay, you forget your vocabulary. Just what are you doing? I want to know something more about you. Are you a student? Close these things on the top, something. There was a question. While just if you want to get back to me, you can send another message. In the meantime, I'll respond to someone who asked for improving listening ability. How do we improve listening ability? Now, what kind of listening do you think you do most? If you want to understand the typical foreign and UK and US accent, then I think you have to again immerse yourself into it, right? For example, you watch the news in English. Again, I am not asking you to watch the typical commercial Hollywood movies, which really wouldn't assist you in any way, neither in developing your reading or writing or vocabulary or listening skills or spoken English. So I would say that you listen to some of the good speakers of English who read news. Okay, it could be in on the Indian television or anywhere from the other part of the world. I think that's the best way to improve your listening power. So I hope I have made it clear. Listening to people who speak very well, the best model, the best representatives would be the news readers. They use the kind of vocabulary that you may want to. You can even listen to more science based programs. There are lots of programs that deal with topics as varied as zoology or physics or even your chemical engineering and also there are specific programs where people have scientific kinds of discussions. That is one way. General news and news readers, listen to them. They give you the right vocabulary, the right pronunciation and accent. Some of you are concerned about improving accent, so listen to the news readers. They are, in my opinion, they are better role models for learning English than watching contemporary films. Yeah, just did I respond to you during speaking time? I forget vocabulary. How to prepare for competitive exams? So I just said I have a course called English Language for Competitive Exams. So it is quite comprehensive. It may not cover 100% of your requirements. The course is right now currently running, and it may be offered next semester by the NPTEL. Please keep looking it. Please look it up. Okay, so please keep looking up the NPTEL website. There are lots of interesting courses, and one of the concerns was written communication. I understand there is a course there also in for NPTEL. Some not by me, but there was a course some time back. I had seen it. So written communication. I also advise you to look up English language for competitive exams. It is an out and out uh, kind of course which is geared or which addresses the needs of students who are taking international competitive exams. So that Sanjeev, that should answer your question. Yeah. So if Basant, hello, you want to know whether your writing is correct or not, how to come, how should you know? Yeah. The best way to know whether your writing is accurate or to the mark is not, or is it not, is to show it to a person who you think has better English or better command of the English language as compared to you, and ask that person's opinion. That's the best way. Perhaps the teacher in your college may be overloaded with lot of work. Teachers are expected to do so many things, so perhaps they may not be able to respond to individual needs. However, it is extremely important that if you are so committed to improving your written English, then please show it to someone who you think can give you um, effective feedback. Um, just again, I will respond to your question, how to improve your English language overall. Now, the best way again, starters and easiest, read the newspapers in English. Perhaps but not in the local regional language. You want to improve your English, you have to read the English language newspapers. Best way and the easiest way. That is one. Secondly, you should also watch programs in the English language. By programs, I mean the news based programs, the information based programs. First, start with that, and only once you get the hang of accent and pronunciation and the grammar, then you should graduate to watching more entertainment based programs. Otherwise, it would be of no real use to you. If you feel that you find it difficult to speak in front of your teacher or in front of your friends, then perhaps in your try some online courses which are very interactive. you can perhaps enroll for them. They are interactive in nature. You can speak to the system. Nobody is there to judge you, criticize you, comment you, but you will be corrected and you will be given effective feedback. I think just that's what we should be doing. Shefali, hello, you want to improve your English for competition? Yes, I have a course, English for competitive purposes, which is an NPTEL course currently online. You can enroll for it next semester. I think that would give you a good grounding. Apart from that, you can also read certain texts and books that come, or even online courses based which can cater to this need. So yeah, there is help. There is a lot of help around for English for competitive exams. Which Hollywood films? Subhadeep asks, what are the Hollywood films we can watch which may intellectually help us to improve English? Um, there are lots. Okay. There is a movie called To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird. There is a book. There is a movie called. I just mentioned it. My Fair Lady. There is a movie called Roman Holiday. Films which are based on great works of literature. They can also help you in practicing and understanding English in a better way. For example, there is an adaptation of Charles Dickens's David Copperfield and Great Expectations. So I would recommend that you watch them. All these films are easily accessible and they are all online. Questions regarding preparing for competitive exams, please watch the course English language for competitive exams. So that's what I have been saying repetitively, that this is what you have to say. And there are lots of books also on these specific exams. How to speak English in interview, like like um, I am not able to understand. IES, okay. I think what you mean is IAS exam, perhaps. Um, Confidence matters a lot, but kindly do not be overconfident when you speak. You have to have something of a kind of English which is polite. Politeness does matter. If you present yourself as a confident as well as polite young person, then even for a very tough exam like the IAS face-to-face interview, I think you would do very well. Um, I think they may ask a couple of questions on the domain knowledge. For example, if your basic degree is in engineering sciences or in economics, perhaps some of the experts. I think it's a committee of experts, and they may ask you questions on that. You should be able to present yourself without fidgeting, without getting nervous, and um, as truthfully and as accurately as possible. I think these are also some uh, tips that I can give you. What part of the newspaper? Yeah, that's a very good question. Subhadeep asks, what part of the newspapers we should read first? Sports section has very good vocabulary. Most of the newspapers include good sports section, and they have good vocabulary and grammar. Editorials also. So I would recommend the editorials and the sports section, sometimes international sections also. So I think that's the one that you should be looking at, and that would give you a wide range of vocabulary and a wide. It covers most of the topics, so that may help you in improving your confidence for appearing at interviews for exams like IAS. Like somebody asks here, how can I speak good English in IAS exam? I think that's a good idea. Read the newspaper daily. Most people I know, some people come from rural background and all, and they teach themselves spoken English by reading the newspaper, especially sports and especially the editorials. Uh, what are the newspapers which are good? As I mentioned, the Hindu, mm, Hindustan Times, Times of India. Now to remember things, what we learn and concentrate, how to read a book and make notes. I would suggest that you keep a colorful sticky. Sometimes, if you want, if you feel that this was particularly interesting area or topic and I want to get back to it, mark it with a sticky. If you think vocabulary was difficult, again mark the page with the sticky. I'm again talking about people who read books or newspapers. And then you have to go back to that. So remember, it all comes with sufficient amount of practice. It won't happen overnight. Um, Anand asks, how can we improve communication English? Communication in what, Anand? So we have spoken and reading and writing as well as listening. So again, I would say you want to develop your spoken and listening abilities. So you listen to the English news readers, BBC, or CBS based programs. I wouldn't suggest that you watch comedy shows. Perhaps I'm talking about the English language comedy shows. I don't think many people would get the hang of the idiomatic expressions that are used there. People laugh there, and then there are plenty of disturbing recorded sound and noise, and you get distracted. Best would be to listen to the news readers and start our own newspapers, start to develop your reading abilities. If your reading is in place, perhaps vocabulary will also improve. Once you have your vocabulary in control, perhaps your spoken English would also. Um, Chef Ali asks, difference between competitive English and daily basis and communication English. Yes, English for competition language, Chef Ali, is quite different from our daily spoken English. We don't have much trouble with our daily communicative English. We, even if someone is not a very effective or efficient user of the English language, they can get by on a daily basis with whatever rudimentaries of English they have. But English for competitive exams is a totally different ball game. You have to really know the nuances of the English language. It's tougher and more difficult. It requires a lot of practice. I know of people who enroll for classes such as GRE coaching, etc., TOEFL coaching, and etc., and they take months to prepare. Even those who have been to English medium schools throughout their lives and have done a lot of uh, and who are very good natural users of the English language. But appearing for competitive exams is a very different. It is like appearing for a competitive exam. So English for competitive exams is as challenging as any other competitive exam. It requires more training, practice, and skills. Subhadeep asks, how can I check my pronunciation? Sometimes accent is not good. Yeah. See, even if you look up the word on your smartphone, it comes with a pronunciation icon. Press it, and most difficult words, most challenging words, or words which you are not very sure or clear about, they will. The pronunciation would be there. It is in very standard English, and you will benefit a lot from that. The word meaning as well. So online dictionaries are there, and they can help you. Do you have a course on English for? Yes, I have a course on English language for competitive exams. Yes, it is there. It is running right now, and it will be offered again next semester or next year. So please keep watching the NPTEL website. Apart from English language for competitive exams, I also have uh, English literature for competitive exams, catering more to the needs of those students who want to appear for literature based competitive exams. And how to overcome fear of speaking in front of audience. I think PowerPoint presentation would be a good idea. You can look up the major points. So you, even if you feel that you have a kind of stage fright, when the PowerPoint is right in front of you, you will be able to look at it and remember what you want to say. So I'm not suggesting that you write your entire speech on the PowerPoint. But write the main points. It will give you something to hold on to and fall back on, and it will also um, help you to remember the things that you want to work on or to speak about. The PowerPoint would be a good idea. If that is not allowed, perhaps handwritten notes that could also help. Um, Ajit asks, approach to follow to learn difficult words. Yes. So when you come across a difficult word, note it down and go back to it. See, if a word is difficult for you, and if you feel that this is not a very common word that you will come across in everyday usage, and if you want to retain it, if you want to make it a part of your repertoire of vocabulary, then you should note it down somewhere in your smartphone or on a piece of paper. Go back to it, practice it, see how it is used. Most dictionaries give the usage of the word, how the word can be used. If you want to improve your language, yes, you will have to. I think you're referring to competitive exams or English that you should be using in your interviews, perhaps for competitive exams. So this is the best way, best practice. Are literature-based competitive exams required for the engineers? I don't think so. Literature based competitive exams are not required for the engineers who want to study abroad. Um, English language for competitive exams, GRE, TOEFL kind of training is enough. You don't have to do literature. I was referring to my other course, English literature for competitive exams, which is also a part of NPTEL program, apart from the course that I have been talking about, which is called English language for competitive exams. Many of you have been asking questions, so that's the context in which I mentioned the other course. I think most of you would benefit from English language for competitive exam, which is also a part of NPTEL. Flashcards, Sandeep, Subhadeep are very effective. Yes, you can use flashcards. Sorry, app. What is your level of comfort and which version you want to use? And see, you are the best judge of your level, technical as well as the language level. So you please decide. I won't be able to recommend anything. But if you want to ask me which English dictionary or what apps, I think dictionaries are also using apps nowadays. I would say Oxford English Advanced English Language Dictionaries is still the best. If there is an app which can help you access this dictionary, please invest in it. Subhadev, yes, I get your question. We are working on it. Perhaps next time we will be uh, on onto it. Ajit, what kind of English is expected from a PhD level students? Um, Good communication. Okay, particularly if you are not a literature student, and I'm sure most of you are not literature students, you are engineering students. We expect you to communicate better. For PhD, you should be able to write well without making too many grammatical errors, and you should be able to present your ideas well. Um, um, we do not, I don't think that anybody would expect a lot in terms of accent and pronunciation from a research scholar. 10:50. 10:50. So 10, 8 more minutes. Yeah. Shubhadeep asked me my personal favorite TV shows or comedy shows for improving English. Unfortunately, I cannot give you many examples for from TV shows or comedy shows for improving English. I think there are lots of programs, but I suggest that you have to be very wise in choosing your programs because they can be very addictive. I know there are people who watch a lot of television, especially on the net, and well, what happens is it gets very distracting. They are addictive because they want to follow the storyline week after week, and most of them are dailies. We really don't have much time to invest in these things. Again, I would say if you want to improve your English, follow the news readers, follow the news in English. For writing research papers, is there any kind of grammar or spell checker in LaTeX? I think there should be. For LaTeX, are you aware of LaTeX program? Yeah. Okay. I haven't really looked it up, but perhaps there could be. Okay, because I'll tell you what's the problem, Subhadeep, here. I type, well, personally, when I type on the system, I type, but I don't really use the spell check because spell check can sometimes backfire. Okay, so I avoid using too much of technical or technological intervention in writing. But then that's another matter. This is, I think, for the kind of uh, writing ability you're talking about, perhaps it would be good. Please ask people who are using this particular program. Ma'am, engineers who want to join government jobs will require what level of English? It depends on which government job you require because I think bank exams require quite a good level, advanced level of English language. For example, grammar, for example, vocabulary, and there are so many books which are completely devoted to English for banking purposes. Okay. For civil services and all, I don't think that you require to have extreme, or I don't think they are very demanding where English language is concerned. I think they are more into facts, test, checking facts, and when you come face to face for interviews and all, I think that's the entire package. How good are you in your own domain knowledge? How you present yourself, etiquettes, politeness, your face-to-face interaction with people, body language, those things also matter, not just your accent or your English. like accuracy in English language. Um, Shafali, you forget, so you have to keep repeating and practice. You're very young, you have your entire life to practice things, so please keep at it, don't lose hope. So, Vipas, can you refer something which will improve our general knowledge? Yes, I would suggest that you read the Outlook magazine, the Hindu newspaper. So, not just the general knowledge, but it will also improve your English language. I have come across many people who have improved their English language only by watching the newsreaders and reading the newspapers. Do European countries, Germany, France, need English language for higher study, or I need to learn their language? I may not be an expert in this area, but whatever I know, I can only give you uh, information based on what I know, which could be quite limited. Best thing is that you approach. You are talking about Germany, so why not go to the Max Muller and ask them what they expect. Max Muller Bhavan in most is there in most cities, and they may advise you what level or what kind of language do they expect. What I understand and what is, according to my knowledge, if you want to pursue higher studies in Germany or France, you have to know their language. So they do not have tests of the English language, but they have their proficiency in German language, proficiency in French. So I think that's what is needed, and it is expected to be of very high level. Right. I have time for one last question. Yeah. If anything, otherwise, it was wonderful interacting with you. And hopefully, I will, if some of you are already enrolled or registered for my other course, English language for competitive exams, I will be meeting them there. Otherwise, I have time for one more language. I'm sorry, one more question. So, Shubhadeep asks, why can't we have an universal? Shubhadeep, it should have be a universal, although it is you, and but this is an exception here. When the pronunciation is not an umbrella, so it sounds like a, but we can't. When you say universal, then it is a Y kind of a pronunciation. So therefore, a universal level English. Yeah. So what? Why can't we have a universal language in India? Uh, that's for the policymakers to decide. Yes, Shefali. So, for a startup, I think I'm very sure for a startup, your language is good enough. You don't need very higher order of English language. And thank you, Abhishek. Thank you so much. Thank you, then. Nice interacting with you. God bless.